Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this RE014, where I take old stories and update them to modern standards. This particular story is called Dakka, or Dakka, written by Plucium.
Before we start, I just wanted to thank Mr. Anderson for being here with us. His input will be quite enlightening. It has been quite a while since the last contact, right? The lead creature asked, a skinny chitinous creature, before it turned to face the significantly shorter and squatter accomplice. Yes, about 5 centuries, if my memory serves me correct,
replied the squatter insect creature in question. Mr. Anderson merely smiled and nodded.
Anyways, gentle beings, if you would follow me.
The large creature gestured at the 2 armored-up beings guarding the doors to the facility.
As you will all know, and I'm sorry for repeating this, but it does help to hear it as you go, this is the largest public secret this side of Alpha Centauri. I'm sure that you've all heard rumors about what goes on in here, and many of you probably have moles, but the feds have apparently decided that our nation needs a little bit of morale boost, especially considering all those terrorist attacks. The attendant beings all quietened the instant they entered the cavernous vicinity. On display in the massive hangar were a collection of pedestals, equally spaced out, almost like an art gallery. Perched on said pedestals were ambiguous items in ascending size, tiny to gargantuan. Anyway, this is the first item here, the last resort. Now, I may not exactly inspire confidence when the first thing I show off is essentially a suicide device. Let me assure you, it is anything but. This tiny thing here can be slipped easily into any location by an infiltrator and be detonated remotely with a yield of up to a ton of TNT. The presenter turned to Mr. Anderson. This is what you humans used, yes? Anything to add?
Mr. Anderson smiled a wry smile, cleared his throat and began, Yeah. Only for the larger yields, though. It is quite nifty. Though I do question the design. Sure, the coin shape is rather clever, but we do live in a cashless society. A piece of litter or gum would be far less likely to draw attention. As it is, someone would probably take it home, thinking that they found an artifact or something. The presenter froze for a moment.
Surprisingly insightful. I'll be sure to pass that on to the boys at R&D. Anyone else?
He was met with a collection of species-specific shakings of the head.
All right, on to the next one.
The walk to the next pedestal was rather quiet, filled only with muffled whispers from the assembled journalists and scientists.
Right, this is a revolutionary new combat device. It is a
tear gas grenade. A rather vicious choice if you're going to be using it for crowd control, Mr. Anderson cut in.
Oh, you've seen this before?
Yeah, we had them since pre-space. Had a lot of civil unrest back then.
Impressive. It took quite a while for the engineers to make them suitable for crowd control. They worked, but a bit too well. Any questions?
What purpose would these serve against terrorists if they are designed for crowd control? A small rhino-like journalist spoke up.
Good question. As I said earlier, these are a toned-down version. Full-strength versions work great for safely eliminating a terrorist compound without losing men.
The journalist seemed aghast. You're talking about chemical warfare?
Oh, don't be silly. It's not fatal. Besides, who cares about a couple terrorists?
The presenter response hardly seemed to soothe the journalists. Hey, kid, Anderson called out, inspecting some random trinket on a smaller platform. Yes, the angered journalist responded. Ain't a war crime if it ain't wartime. Anderson snorted to himself at the writer's confused expression. Suppressing a smirk, the presenter quickly asserted control back over the crowd.
Right. Assuming that is all, we've got a good while to go, and the brass only gave us an hour, so we should move along now.
The whispers were a bit louder this trip. When they arrived, they were greeted by the sight of what looked to be a green lunchbox on stilts.
Before we start, any comments to make, Mr. Anderson?
The presenter arched the side of his brow. Anderson cracked a smile. Of course. Mind if I examine it? Taking the wave as a gesture of assent, Anderson eased the metal case off the pedestal. Looks like a claymore to me. Just weird and science-ified. Don't see why, though. Explosions do a way better job at wounding people.
Wounding people? Mr. Anderson, I'm afraid you don't understand. This device is meant to kill as many terrorists as possible, not wound them. A wounded soldier can still fight and harm Federation personnel.
True. I suppose with modern medicine it's not as hard to treat injuries as it once was. It used to be, you blow off a couple of the enemy's legs, and then half their resources would go to be keeping them alive. Way easier on the enemies if you just killed the feckers.
The room was silent. I suppose that's all you need to know about that. It's a mine, it vomits plasma on everything in front of it. Very deadly. Moving on.
The walk was full of whispers and murmurs.
Anyways, this is the latest model in the assault technology. The GRT-X assault rifle fires off in single, burst, or full auto. Each magnetized plasma round contains 15 fefta of energy. Any questions? Good, let's move on. The presenter rushed.
Excuse me?
One of the journalists interrupted his swift walk to the next platform. Yes?
He looks like he wants to say something.
The journalist pointed at Mr. Anderson, who, at that moment, was making a point of examining his shoes. What is it?
Well, I'm not that much of a fan of plasma weaponry. Sure, they work great against flesh, but typically terrorists make a point of not running around in their birthday suits. I've seen particularly thick cardigans detonate pistol rounds early and end up with only minor burns on the victim. I just doubt that the thing can go through ceramic body armor.
I'm not sure whether to be flattered or insulted. I do believe you drastically overestimate our ability to carry something as heavy as ceramic armor for any length of time.
True, I suppose. You wanted to move on?
Yes, let's. The journalists didn't bother to hide their talks. I'm just going to let Mr. Anderson introduce this next one, since he seems to know so much about our weapons, the presenter stated jokingly.
You compliment me. I'm afraid I haven't the slightest clue what this is.
Anderson glanced at the strange lump of metal.
Yeah, I got nothing.
Not so all-knowing, after all. This is an energy field generator. It'll disperse any plasma projectiles within 15 FPA. No, it does scramble all electronics inside as well. Great for night ops. Any questions?
Will we be given more in-depth description of these afterwards? You seem to be skipping a lot of details.
Yeah, of course. All information and documents will be published shortly. As for the information, my apologies, but it's just lazy writing.
Excuse me?
I have a script, so I don't accidentally reveal something still classified. Apparently, I can't be trusted enough.
Fair enough.
The next couple of exhibits were similar fare, until something caught Anderson's eye.
I'm sorry, but is that a fecking lightsaber?
He gestured to a familiar-looking hilt. The presenter grasped the hilt and pressed the big red button. With a swoosh, a gleaming rod of white plasma leapt from the tip. Great, isn't it? It can deflect plasma bolts and cut through solid steel.
Yeah, it's the dumbest crap I've ever seen.
Sorry?
I get this as a presentation of cool things to raise morale, but come on! That thing is a death trap. There is no safety, no guard, nothing to stop you lopping off your own limbs. Plus, no force means good luck moving it fast enough to block a bolt. Plus, there's energy, the heat, the storage, the handling. I could go on for ages. Who decided this was a good idea?
Rather than being incensed at Anderson's tirade, the presenter seemed mildly amused. I believe the human ambassador bet the head of engineering at tenor, whatever that is, that he couldn't make one. The collected journalist chuckled.
Anderson paused. Yeah, that'll do it. Moving on.
He seemed somewhat keen to move on from his misjudgment.
So, what's that thing?
He pointed to what seemed like a Predator drone mounted on a platform. That is the latest generation of close air support, capable of 10 kilowatts of output on a pulse laser. It can easily eliminate any hostiles in the area. Guaranteed to be the best CAS in any given battle.
Boring. Wait till you've seen the restored A10 in action. Then tell me about the best CAS.
If it's something that requires restoration, I can hardly see how it's an effective tool in today's age.
Are you kidding me? The only reason they stopped making them was it cost too damn much to transport the ammo they chewed through in space. 30mm shells at nearly 4,000 rounds per minute. Good luck surviving that. Plus, no fancy plasma engines and whatnot, so 90% of modern tracking equipment is null.
You certainly seem passionate. Tell you what, after all this, you can show me a couple of videos and I'll decide for myself.
Sounds good. Say, is that a tank?
Anderson pointed across the room at what seemed to be, well, a tank. Indeed it is. It's a hover tank, actually. Shut it.
The presenter turned back to Anderson just as he was about to speak.
Whatever you're going to say, shut it. That thing there is the best of the best, top of the line, plasma rail cannon speeds of up to 50 R, not affected by terrain, 2 coaxial plasma repeaters. I can guarantee you humans have nothing that can top it.
Anderson paused for a bit. You may be correct, if only on a technicality. When we got to space, most of our old hardware was decommissioned. It was mainly used for regional conflicts, and when every country is fecked off to another planet, skirmishes were few and far between. Besides, it was far too costly to fly a tank across the galaxy. As you know, better off using FTL missiles. I suppose we never got back to the old ways once our FTL got better.
And your point is? That's certainly a long speech with no real point.
But you see, my point is that we have nothing now to match that. Say, how well would that fancy heat-conducting armor fare against tungsten sabots going at Mach 5? Or how well does the underside handle a copper lance from an RPG? I'd wager that a railgun could go through over a meter of effective armor.
The presenter sighed. Yes, very true. You humans always had a knack for overkill, especially wild planet side. One would think that you have enough firepower.
That's heresy. One can never have enough Dakka. Not the Gao 8, or the Straver Gustav, or the Tsar Bomb, or the Davy Crockett. Nothing. There is no such thing as enough Dakka.
The presenter shook his head. You humans are quite strange.
You just wait until one of our military dick measuring competitions. That's where the real firepower is at.
Now then, allow me to call an intermission. I'll be here chatting with Mr. Anderson. Feel free to ask any questions on your mind or wander around. We'll regroup in 10.
End of story. I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps. Dragon Soup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Caspar Arnold, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Lightjock, Dragzoon WRE, and Lord Azrakal. Thank you very much.